Sometime this morning before you left the house, there's a good chance you did something a billion people do every single day. You ate breakfast. Maybe it was cereal. Maybe toast. Maybe you grabbed a granola bar on the way out the door. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a little voice told you, good, you did the right thing. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But here's what nobody told you, that voice. It was put there by a cereal company. And the story of how that happened is one of the most successful and most quietly destructive marketing cons in human history. Let's go back to the late 1800s. Before breakfast was a thing. No, really. Before breakfast was a thing. In mid-19th century America, people didn't have a dedicated morning meal the way we do now. If you woke up on a farm, you might not eat until noon. The concept of a distinct ritualized breakfast with its own specific foods basically didn't exist. People ate when they were hungry and when food was available. That was it. Enter a deeply religious doctor named John Harvey Kellogg. He ran a health sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan, and he was on a mission to purify the American body and soul through diet. He believed that bland, grain-based food would cure everything from indigestion to, and I want you to know, I am not making this up, immoral thoughts. So he and his brother invented a flake grain product. Corn flakes. Spartan, flavorless, and originally designed to suppress desire. Only half of that message made it into the advertising. What started as a fringe wellness product became big business fast. By 1903, more than 100 cereal factories had been built in Battle Creek, Michigan alone. And as competition exploded, so did the marketing. Companies weren't just selling food anymore, they were selling a belief. A belief that needed a slogan. In 1917, a writer named Lena Cooper published an article in a health magazine, one that happened to have John Harvey Kellogg himself as an editor, and coined the phrase, "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day." That line was the seed. Then, in 1944, General Foods needed to move inventory of grape nuts cereal. So they launched a nationwide campaign, pamphlets in grocery stores, radio ads on every major station, all of them hammering the same message, eat a good breakfast, do a better job. Nutrition experts say so. The radio ads literally said that. Nutrition experts say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Except those experts. Largely paid by the industry doing the advertising. And this is where it gets interesting. Because the campaign didn't just sell cereal. It rewired how an entire culture thought about morality, health, and food. Eating breakfast became a virtue. Skipping it became something close to failure. You weren't just making a dietary choice. You were making a character choice. Busy moms were told it was their duty. Kids were told their brain wouldn't work without it. And slowly, generation by generation, the belief became invisible. It stopped feeling like marketing and started feeling like truth. Here's the plot twist most people never hear. The science doesn't actually back it up. The studies that launched the breakfast myth were almost entirely observational. Meaning, researchers noticed that people who ate breakfast tended to be healthier and assumed breakfast was why. But here's the problem with that logic. People who eat breakfast regularly also tend to have more stable routines, better sleep, more access to food, lower stress levels. It's not the breakfast doing the work. It's everything else around it. Harvard's own health publication put bluntly, the idea that eating breakfast revs up your metabolism isn't based in reality. And the research that's accumulated since then? It's nuanced in a way that completely undercuts the single confident statement we were sold. A major 2023 meta-analysis found that skipping breakfast was actually associated with modest weight loss. A massive review published in late 2025, the most comprehensive of its kind, found that for most healthy adults, intermittent fasting, including skipping breakfast, does not impair cognitive performance. Your brain doesn't crash without a bowl of cereal at 7 a.m. It adapts. For many people, it even sharpens. Meanwhile, during a fasting state, your body activates something called autophagy, essentially a cellular cleanup process where damaged components get cleared out and recycled. This is the same process that longevity researchers are getting increasingly excited about. And extended overnight fasting, even something as simple as pushing your first meal to 10 or 11 a.m., allows blood sugar and insulin levels to drop, giving your body a window to actually burn stored fat instead of just the fuel you just shoveled in. Now, here's what I want to be clear about, because this is not a skip breakfast and live forever video. The science is genuinely nuanced. There are real trade-offs. Skipping breakfast is associated with higher LDL cholesterol in some studies. That's the kind you don't want. A Mount Sinai study found that fasting can temporarily suppress certain immune cells, at least in mouse models. Children and teenagers, whose brains are still developing, really do seem to need more regular meals. And if you have diabetes, are pregnant, have a history of disordered eating, or are managing any chronic condition, you should talk to your doctor before changing anything. This is not medical advice. But for the average healthy adult who has been guilting themselves every morning for grabbing just a coffee and heading out the door, the evidence says you're probably fine, and possibly doing yourself a favor. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop eating by the clock and start eating by your body. The science increasingly supports something called time-restricted eating, essentially keeping your meals within a consistent 8 to 10-hour window each day. That doesn't mean you have to skip breakfast. It means you can stop treating it like a moral obligation. If you're hungry at 7 a.m., eat. If you're not hungry until 10 a.m., wait. Your body is not a machine that requires fuel the moment you boot it up. Second, if you do eat in the morning, what you eat matters enormously more than the fact that you ate at all. The studies that found breakfast benefits were almost always looking at people who ate whole foods, protein, fiber, not people eating a bowl of processed, sugar-loaded cereal while watching TV. If your breakfast is sugary cereal, you are literally eating the product that invented the myth that you needed to eat breakfast. That is a level of irony worth sitting with. Third, audit who's giving you nutrition advice. Cereal companies spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Kellogg's alone spent $790 million on marketing in a single year, making sure their version of nutrition science reached your breakfast table before independent research did. That's not ancient history. That's still happening. When a food product tells you it's essential, ask who funded that claim. And fourth, give yourself permission to experiment. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gently. Try pushing your first meal back by an hour or two for a couple of weeks and see how you feel. Track your energy, your focus, your hunger. Your body will tell you something. Nutrition is personal in a way that makes sweeping universal rules almost always wrong. Here's the thing about the breakfast myth that I find genuinely fascinating. It's not just a story about cereal. It's a story about how belief gets manufactured, about how a corporation can reach inside your morning routine, your sense of self-discipline, your relationship with your own body, and quietly rearrange the furniture. And you never notice because by the time the science catches up, the habit is already 100 years old. The most important meal of the day isn't breakfast or lunch or dinner. It's whatever meal you eat with intention, with real food, that actually fits how your body works. Now I'm curious, do you eat breakfast? Has this changed how you think about it? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if this made you think about other everyday facts that might actually be marketing in disguise,